Kautilya's Arthasastra, fourfold duties of a king. So king should always, have four functions. What are the four duties here they are talking about? Raksha. Raksha means protection. Vriddhi means growth. Palana means maintenance and a compliance. Yogakshema means well-being. So here Arthasastra in Kautilya in his Arthasastra, he was talking about what are the main duties of the king. So that is, when a king, it comes the duties of the king to administer the kingdom. When it comes to the company, the management, the board's function in administering the company. Mahabharata, in case of Mahabharata, recites the duties of the ruler, dharma and good governance as consulted by the dying Bhishmato, Yudhishthira and various rishis. So here duties of the board is again, mentioned in the case of Mahabharata. Last one, when it comes, Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo was, in his sadhana, we can say in his sadhana, he was talking about more of a conscious governance. So what is a conscious governance? Before we do something, we should, ask our inner conscious whether what we do is correct or not. That means before you do, you concentrate and ask yourself, if you feel within it's not okay, please don't do it. So that is what here in the case of Sri Aurobindo was talking about conscious governance. To be able to do the right thing in the right way in each case. And at every moment, one must be in the right consciousness. If you are not in the right consciousness, what happens? That you may something you feel that not okay before you do some work, then that may not be successful. You may not be successful later on. That is what here in the case of ancient time they were talking about. Now moving on to the regulation side. Regulation side, when we talk about governance. So far we have said that governance, was praised in the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and all those things. Now, when it comes to the regulation, and the first reference to corporate governance in India was praised in 1956 Act, right? So, what was given, what is a governance? That much only was given, but not detailed one in the Companies Act 1956. But Confederation of Indian Industries, they have disclosed a concept called Desirable Corporate Governance Code in 1998. So what did they say? That it is the first institution, CII was the first institution initiative in Indian industry to frame desirable corporate governance code. And that happened in 1998. And in 1999, SEBI, right? Because after CII, SEBI also thought that, okay, let us have something, because it is a desirable one, let us make a concrete one, right? So here they have made a Came Birla Committee in 1991 to have a listing agreement. What is this listing agreement? Clause 49 listing agreement. So under 1956 Act, any company which would like to go for, listing their securities in the stock exchanges, they should need to, fulfill certain criteria. So one of the criteria they have mentioned as the corporate governance. So here introduces the clause 49 in listing agreements detailing governance norms for listed companies in India. Then again, MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So task force, they've appointed a task force in 2000 that is raising governance standard among all companies in India. Because after CII and SEBI, right, the SEBI Birla Committee, MCA also felt that we have to have a particular committee. So here the task force was appointed, and then setting up of a Center for Corporate Excellence. So Center for Corporate Excellence is also located in Navi Mumbai by the Indian Institute of Company Secretaries of India. And also Naresh Chandra Committee in 2002, they have been constituted to examine and recommend inter alia amendments to the law involving the auditor-client relationship. What is this auditor-client relationship? See, basically the management is running the business on behalf of the shareholders, but how they are doing, how they are performing, who is going to examine? The individual shareholders, they can come and check, but are they having sufficient knowledge in examining the work performed by the auditors? So that is a big question. So that is why here we need to have the relationship between the client and the auditors. So what is the relationship? If the auditors and the management are the closely related party, and the auditor may not be able to give the true and fair picture. So that is why auditor appointment, auditor should be an independent person, no be connected with the management. And along with that, they've also introduced a concept called role of independent director. What is a role of independent director? Independent director basically a director who is no way connected with the management. The director can raise any issue, when the company is not performing the not going moving towards the attainment of its goal. Then moving on to the Narayana Murthy Committee in 2003, that it was constituted reviewing and implementation of the corporate governance code by a listed entity. So corporate governance board, so far we have seen that in the case of a CII, it was applicable only Confederation of Indian Industry, and SEBI was giving only for a listed entity, and MCA was talking about only for a center for setting up of corporate governance excellence in institute of excellence, and here reviewing implementation of the corporate governance code by listed entities. So whatever suggestion given in the previous slide, whatever we have seen, CII, SEBI and MCA, all those things that they have made, how to implement. So they've initially said that first 2,000 companies have to implement, then later on first top 1,000 companies, like that they've phased the implementation in a phased manner, that they have given the suggestion. Then 2004, that was a very important here, where JJ Irani committee was constituted to revise the Companies Act 1956. Because see what is happening, most of the Indian Act is based on the British acts, right? You take any labor legislations or Companies Act, constitutions and all, when you look at it, it was all formed in under the British period, or it is based on the British rule. So now what this JJ Irani committee was formed, the main purpose of Irani committee is to simplify the company law, right? Company law, and also revise. How to revise? Because especially when it comes to the penal provisions, it was under old law, 100 rupees, 200 rupees and 5 rupees, 10 rupees was a penalty. And also there are a lot of things, improvements have been made, right? Especially when it comes to Information Technology Act, which was not included under Companies Act, right? The scams which are made by the company management, the penalty side was very, very meager. So that is one of the consideration taken by the JJ Irani committee, and they have revised, right? And then again, CIA Task Force on Corporate Governance 2019, they have suggested voluntary recommendation for industry to adopt. So what is this voluntary recommendation? Now you can also see that there are companies, they've started practicing human capital, that they have practiced. What is this human capital? They were not only reporting in the annual return that in their balance sheet that financial capital, but also the expert knowledge. The employees who were having the expert knowledge, they were also capital. They were also started reporting. So that was one of the example that we can say voluntary corporate governance guidelines. So here MCA again, they've suggested triple bottom line approach. What is this triple bottom line approach? So here they were talking about planet, profit, planet, and the other performance, right? So here they were talking about financial performance, society, expectation, and the environment, right? So it has to be correlated. The objective of the business should not be only in making money, but you should also protect the planet and the people. All these three things to be taken into consideration. And that is one of the example where the concept of corporate social responsibility was also introduced in 2009. And 2010 NOSCOM recommendation focusing the stakeholders of the company. And after 2009, Godrej Committee 2012 was constituted to formulate the policy document on corporate governance and innovative best practices. What is this? The objective of this particular committee is that so far we have seen everything was voluntary guidelines, voluntary practices, and all those things. Now, voluntary practices are there. Among the voluntary practices, now we have to capitalize one, right? We have to standardize these among the best voluntary practices. We have to capitalize. How to capitalize? Now we have to frame innovative best practices among the companies which are doing voluntary corporate governance adoption, voluntary adoption for corporate governance. We have to see which are the best, right? So based on that, they have made 17 guiding principles, that is meeting number of meeting that the board should meet, right? And then composition of the board, combining executive director, non-executive director, women directors on the board, all that they have included in this one. And JJ Irani committee we have seen. So all the recommendation of the JJ Irani committee was made into a Companies Act 2013, which came into force in 2014. So what are the main elements of the 2013 Act of a Companies Act? Introduces mandatory concepts like board independence, class action suits, CSR, corporate social responsibility, gender diversity, that is women on the board, and related party transaction. Right, all this they have introduced as a new concept, and producer company was one of the new concepts, and 1% company is a new concept. All these were introduced under Companies Act 2013, and also they have reduced its number of sections significantly compared to 1956 Act. And SEBI LODR regulation. So what is the SEBI LODR regulation? So previously we had a clause 49 under 1956. SEBI has introduced a clause 49 listing agreement. Now after this act, Companies Act got revamped under 1956, got revamped into 2013. So then listing agreement also has to be in line with the Companies Act 2013. So that is the reason why that they have made SEBI listing obligation and disclosure requirements, LODR, right? LODR, and consolidate and streamline existing listing agreements of the listed entity with Companies Act 2013. So we can say it's simply for listing agreements 49 was there under 1956. Now they have adjusted that the listing agreement 49 with respect to Companies Act 2013. And then the last one, when it comes Uday Kota Committee 2017, improving the standards of the corporate governance of listed entities, listed companies in India. They have suggested the framework. That framework should be taken into consideration. So now we can say that how corporate governance, linked to the Companies Act 2013 is that increased reporting framework. So when it comes to increased reporting framework, we can say that previously companies were doing, the management was doing whatever they want, and reporting was not emphasized. Now when it comes director responsibility statement is there, auditor responsibility statement is there, management discussion is there, and then any meeting, any discussion which happens. So previous slide that we have discussed about the related party transaction. When it comes to related party transaction, anything which you do, right, unpublished price sensitive information. What is this unpublished price sensitive information? Any information which is made publicly available, there will be a significant impact on the stock prices of the company. So such information, if you are dealing with any meeting related to unpublished price sensitive information, within half an hour of the closure of the meeting, that information should be reported to the stock exchanges where the stocks are listed. Right, that's one of the important component, reporting framework, right? Everything should be reported. And another thing, the director, at the time of appointment of a director, the first meeting in which they should tell their trading plan. What is the trading plan? See, if I am being appointed as a director, now I have my own whims and fancies to trade in the stocks, right? So now in the beginning of the year only, I should tell what is the number of shares that I would like to buy, what is the number of shares that I would like to sell, what is the cut-off price that needs to be disclosed. And the company in which I am also director or I am also associated, that also needs to be reported under Companies Act 2013 as part of the governance provision. Higher auditor accountability. So now you see that under Companies Act 1956, auditor tenure is only 1 year. What is this 1 year? Every year, auditors are being replaced. But under 2013, Auditors are being replaced only once in 5 years. That means first annual general meeting, if auditor is appointed, and he will be, he's valid till the sixth annual general meeting, right? This is applicable in the case of an individual auditor, and in case of a audit firm, it is applicable for 10 years, right? Reappointment is applicable. It is provided that you pass the special resolution in the annual general meeting. That procedure is separate, but auditors accountability is very high, because 5 years you yourself is managing the company, and in any case, if anything goes wrong, who will be liable? The auditors only. So auditor, now also Companies Act has mentioned that in case if anything goes wrong, along with board, auditor also is responsible, because he is declaring himself auditor's responsibility statement, that when he audit the documents of the company, that he should also give the responsibility statement, that he has taken the full disclosure, he has verified in person, he has made all the sufficient arrangement to check, and he should because all his words are binding. Every stakeholders are depending on the auditors comments, right? So auditors have the higher accountability and easier restructuring. What is the easier restructuring? Merger and amalgamation now made easy under Companies Act 2013. What is this? Because the compliance is made very simple, and restructuring in the case of a management, that is also is made easy. Inclusive CSR agenda, one of the best thing that we can consider under Companies Act, governance provision under Companies Act, is their corporate social responsibility. What is this corporate social responsibility? Basically, company gets all the benefits from the society. Company gets the infrastructure. Company get the resources, right? Human resources from the society, and then they get a customer. They can sell the things, but what is the benefit that they do it back to the society, right? So that is also one of the responsibilities. That is the reason why corporate social responsibility, initially it was made as a voluntary disclosure under Companies Act 1956. It was practiced not under Companies Act. It was practiced as a corporate social responsibility, but under 2013 Act, they mentioned corporate social responsibility was made it as a mandatory provision. What is this corporate social responsibility? Any company, any listed company, they are having they are having paid up share capital turnover beyond the prescribed threshold limit, then they should spend at least 2% of last 3-year profit. At least 2% of last 3-year profit. Say, for example, this year we have got 10 lakh. Last year we have got 12 lakh. Last year we have got 11 lakhs. So total 33 lakhs. 33 lakhs divided by 3, we get 11 lakhs. 11 lakhs, out of 11 lakh, company should spend at least 2%. So under 2013 Act, they have brought the concept called comply or explain. What is this comply or explain? It is mandatory that every company should spend at least 2% of last 3 years average profit. And if you cannot spend, you should explain why you are not in a position to spend. So basically they are talking about, there are schedule 7, there are the items which are listed in the schedule 7. So the projects, basically the projects, you can identify the project and you can invest it, and you should also study impact assessment. What is this project impact assessment? That means if I'm spending for a development of a school, development of an infrastructure in a local area, I should also concentrate what is the impact, right? How many people are getting benefited? How often this is being maintained, right? Say for a very simple example, I'm telling you, rural areas that in case of a rural areas, we don't get this infrastructure facilities like a water, right? A RO purifier, we don't get it. So in that case, what we do, the companies comes and put a RO plant, but that needs to be maintenance is required, right? So who is doing it? So that is why the impact assessment also brought under CSR agenda. And then CSR agenda, they are also talking about CSR committee should be constituted, and that is the responsibility of the CSR committee to check the impact assessment and other concepts. Then wider director and management responsibility, as I said, that if anything goes wrong, so they've introduced a concept called KMP. key managerial personnel. So that includes a managing director, director, company secretary, CEO, CFO, everybody, brought under this. So in case if anything goes wrong with the company, that means scam and all those things, all this KMP should go behind the bar. So that is responsibility is very wider, right? And that is one thing. And the investor protection. Companies Act 2013 mainly emphasize on the investor protection by way of transparency and disclosure, right? So it is the biggest responsibility of the director, the management, to protect the investor interest of the investor. How you can protect the interest of the investor? By making informed decision. So any conduct of a meeting, you should give sufficient meeting notice, right? So 21 days of the notice that you have to serve in case of a general meeting, and before a meeting that you should also send a draft resolution. Draft resolution should be sent, whichever is going to be passed during the meeting, and agenda should be discussed well in advance. So proxy related details relating to the proxy should also be included in the notice. So all these are the main components of the main components of corporate governance under Companies Act. So what are the provisions here they are talking about under Companies Act? Okay, moving on to this one, they were also talking about composition of the board that we have already discussed, that board should have the sufficient number of executive and non-executive directors. What is this executive and non-executive director? When we are doing some work, right? What is the mistake we ourselves cannot be, may not be able to identify. So that is why it's somebody who is no way connected with the company, that they should be in a position to, identify. So that is why the board composition should include sufficient number of executive and non-executive director, admitting of a woman director. So Companies Act also talks about, a mandatory provision with respect to to have women director. So what is this rule they are talking about? Every listed company should have at least one woman director on the board, and every other public company whose paid up share capital above 100 crore, turnover above 300 crore, they should necessarily have one of the director as a woman in the board. And independent director, again independent director, same provision provision they are talking about. Public paid up share capital of more than 10 crore or turnover more than 100 crore or outstanding loan more than 50 crores, it is mandatory for the company should have one independent director. Director training and evaluation. So it is, in a company that we have seen that the employees are, employee performance are measured on a equal intervals, right? Here, directors' performance are also being evaluated, and in those directors who are not performing well, that sufficient training is given to such director so that they are continuing on the board. Constitution of the audit committee is another important element where they are talking about. Audit committee is one of the subcommittee of the board. There are 4 committees are there. One is nomination remuneration committee, audit committee, CSR committee, and stakeholder relationship committee. So here audit committee, basically they talk about internal audit procedures, appointment of auditor responsibility, everything comes under this one. So here audit committee is mandatory for every listed company should appoint an audit committee, and every other public company whose paid up share capital above 10 crore, turnover above 100 crores, and outstanding loans and liability above 50 crores, they should necessarily constitute an audit committee. Nomination remuneration committee. What is this nomination remuneration committee? Before appointing a director, they should necessarily be assessed. Their application should be scrutinized by the nomination remuneration committee. So here basically what happened, nomination remuneration committee will evaluate the applicant, and then they will recommend the application to the board pass the resolution and recommend the names to the shareholders in the general meeting. Once when the general meeting they approve, then only the normal director is being appointed. Otherwise their appointment is only valid from one board meeting till the next annual general meeting. Otherwise they have to vacate the office. Then subsidiary companies management, here that management is different, holding company management is different, but sometimes the directors and auditors should take the responsibility. What is this responsibility they are talking about? Oh, it is the responsibility of the holding company's management to constitute the board of management, board of directors in the subsidiary companies also. So in case if the subsidiary company is not necessarily to have the auditor, the auditing of the subsidiary company should be done by the auditor appointed by the holding company. Internal audit that we have seen, internal audit is one of the main function under the audit committee. SFIO is another important element under Companies Act. Serious Fraud Investigation Officer. What is a serious fraud investigation officer? Anytime when an auditor investigate into the affairs of the business, affairs of the company, that if they found that any scam which had happened, the amount is more than 1 crore rupees, they should necessarily report it to the central government. So what will happen in case if the amount is less than 1 crore? If it is less than 1 crore, serious fraud investigation officer should report to the board, and the board in turn, they will, take the action, right? If a complaint comes that one of the director involved in the scam, he has, a amount which is less than 1 crore, then serious fraud investigation officer should necessarily bring the issue to the board, and board will make a necessary investigation and inquiry, and whatever is the action taken on the issues raised by the SFIO should be included in the director's report. Risk management committee is another important committee which comes under the boards committee. So risk management committee, they have to necessarily after framing this strategy, goals and all those things, they should make the assess the risk, monitor the risk, and diversify the risk, right? So this is also important element of the corporate governance, because we say that investor protection. Why investor protection? Any risk which you are assess when you are evaluating, when you are monitoring, that risk is not going to affect the directors, but it is going to affect the company's performance. When the company's performance are, then who is going to affect? The shareholders are going to be affected. Compliance center, as initially I told you that in the case of a compliance management, whenever a company is not complying with the provisions, then what happened? It is the biggest liability of the company to pay the cost of non-compliance by way of a penalty. This penalty, whenever the higher the penalty company pays, the company's reputation spoils. When the company's reputation spoils, the share price falls. And the second aspect, when it comes, when the company's share price, when the company's pays huge penalty, profitability comes down. When the profitability comes down, dividend also comes down. When the dividend comes, no investor will have a confidence in investing in your company. So in the future, the raising capital will become a bigger issue for the company. So now we can, in a simple term, that we can say that what is the need of a corporate governance? To increase corporate performance, enhance the investor trust, better access to the global market, and then combating corruptions, easy finance from the institution, enhancing enterprise valuation, reduce risk of a corporate crisis and scandals, accountability. So this is what we have seen in the previous slide, that how the components of the corporate governance under Companies Act helps the company. So any company which follows the corporate governance, in what way it is going to be helpful. That is what being discussed in this component. So these elements that we have already discussed, right? Roles, powers of the board, legislation, management, environment, board skills, appointment, and all we have discussed. So here they are talking about the theories. So here agency theory, they are basically talk about. So agency theory means what? The management in a company, they act as an agent. Agent of whom? Agent of the principal. Who are the principal? Okay, in the case of an agency theory, the directors are, playing the role of an agent. Here they should, get the instruction from the principal, that is the shareholders, and they have their self-interests. And in the case of a stewardship theory, Stewardship theory means they are not agent. They don't have any self-interest, but they have a self-motivation. Say, what is the self-motivation? See, I am being in the biggest role. I am in the top position, top management. I have the biggest responsibility leading the company. I should be a role model to the other employees. So that is what here they talk about the stewardship theory of corporate governance. Stakeholder theory talks about the corp in a company is a dependent entity which is depending on the various stakeholders. What are the various stakeholders? Here it comes investor, principal, political group, customers, committees, communities, employees, etc. So these are the components of the stakeholders. And then resource dependency theory. What is this resource dependence theory? So it is the biggest responsibility of the management to make sufficient resources so that uninterrupted services can be performed by the employees. So the management should necessarily, make available sufficient resources. If the resources are not available, then the company may not be able to attain its goal. Transaction cost theory. So here you look at this chart, board demography links to the environment and corporate process effect related to the relational network that is widens, access to the resources again increases, then corporate outcome, increased performance, right? So here transaction cost theory, here they talk about only when you have a board demography, right? Board demography that you have to make sufficient environment, and that transaction will help you to enhance the profitability. So what is the best, best practices in a governance they are talking about? The objective of a best practice is to improve their performance, corporate performance, and facilitating access to the capital. So here, how they are doing it. So what are the some of the list? Some of the list to which Indian companies are performing. We can take recruiting and building a competent board. They will not take somehow. They will not take because there is a vacancy. They will not fill the management. Not admit any person as a board member in a company's board unless and otherwise they are competent to perform their duties. Aligning strategies with the goals. So here, we know the concept called SWOT analysis, right? So the company's environment keep changing. So in this situation, what we need to do, the strategy which was formed at the time of incorporation of the company should be, aligned with the present environment. And then aligning strategies with the goals, exercising accountability. When you delegate the work, and accountability should come from the employees, having a high level ethics and integrity. Ethics and integrity should be established in the company among the employees so that everybody work without anybody's instruction, right? Honesty comes automatically. Defining roles and responsibilities, one of the element which comes under accountability, managing risk effectively. With this, the small note that I'll conclude the session. That if you have any, question answer, I'll leave this 10 minutes time so that we can discuss about the clarification. So whatever I have discussed is very, 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 very simplest manner that I have given to you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's over. And in case if any question answer is there, that I am ready to take up. Yes.
Yes, sir. We are able.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Sir, recently the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has taken some indexes relating to the environmental, social, and the governance related
Yes,
factors
yes,
that companies are needed to be adherent, sir.
yes, sir.
So
Yes.
whether the after implementing this, whether all the companies are reporting the data transparently, whether
Sir,
they are really accountable to that qualitative data like that.
Sir, they are presenting the information. They are all the companies are presenting because in the MCA portal now in under corporate governance, I told you no, sir. It is the responsibility of the audit committee also, right? Auditors' biggest responsibility is to make sure that the company comply with the provisions or not. So when it comes to the audit, no, we have a three kinds of audit: statutory audit when it comes. One is financial audit, other one is secretarial audit, other one is cost audit. So before submitting auditor's report, auditor responsibility statement, the auditors, the statutory auditor of a company should also include the provisions, suggestions or comments given by the secretarial auditor and the cost auditor. So here it is the responsibility of individual auditors to make sure that the company comply with all the provisions or not. If they are not complying, then immediately they will give the concept called qualification, right? The auditor give the comment with the qualification. What is this qualification? Qualification means they give some comment which is negative, or they have a disclaimer, right? So that is what here. So every company should provide. In case if they are not providing, they will explain why they are not in a position to disclose. If they are not disclosing, then it is the responsibility of the management to pay the penalty.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, what are the consequences of those comments? Will it have any impact on the companies?
Sorry?
What are the consequences of those comments, such comments, if they are not adherent to the corporate governance practices?
Exactly. Now you look at it, when an auditor gives a qualification, investors now they are started reading the data, right? Financial data. So whenever there is a qualification, investors will not continue holding the shares in the company because it's a face loss to the company. What is a face loss? Company is not complying with the provisions. If the company is not complying with the provisions, the company has to pay huge penalty in the future. When they pay penalty, then what will happen? It is not only the penalty. In case if the in companies like 2013 they're talking about, in case of continuing offense, 1 lakh per day they are charging as a penalty. So think about it. In case if the company is not complying with the provisions, they are not taking care of the comment, then the reputation of the company goes bad, and sometimes they might have to be wind up under the tribunal, right? So winding up under tribunal when the company is not complying with the provision. Say for a very simple example, when the company is not complying with the provisions of a filing, right? Annual filing, when they are not filing, immediately tribunal will come into into existence and then says that you have to close down your company. That's one thing. So similarly, auditors' comments also should be taken into consideration. Otherwise, it is a risky for the company.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, is there what is the role of directors in regarding this, sir? What is the responsibilities of the directors in regarding these complaints of the governance related aspects?
Sir, see that as I said, the director's responsibility statement, they should tell there are several responsibilities are there in the case of this one directors. So one of such thing is that they've made compliances, right? They've ensured sufficient compliances, and these compliances are correct or wrong, that only is given by the auditors, right? So when the directors are taking up that I have complied with all the laws, but the auditor coming and telling that this fellow did not comply, what does it imply? That implies that my character, right? I'm not giving the true picture. I'm just for the sake of I'm giving the statement. Then I will be disqualified from the position, right? So I will be penalized by it. Whenever we talk about the disqualification and all these things, what happened here? Immediately I'll be removed from the this one. Again, next another company will not allow, will not wish to appoint me, right? So that is the another biggest responsibility. And also there are a lot of responsibilities. See, when I told every year that director should give the KYC, know your customer, know your customer norms under MCA portal, that every director during the first board, before the first board meeting, they should give their acceptance to act as a director. So that is also one of the elements. So in case if you're not happy, get lost, no, get out of the board. But if you're continuing, anything happens.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is there any other doubt, or we'll wind up? Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.